about 2.5, 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
So we're in southeastern Wisconsin. At least it's where I'm based. Now, Marty is in central Wisconsin more. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
still about the same thing to Door County and to Milwaukee. So.
my one excursion to Wisconsin was to Door County.
I'm half the
Yeah.
time in Door County. We have a place up there.
Yeah.
It was lovely. But
It
you
is.
have your summer lasts about 15, 20 minutes. Where
Where
I
are
am,
you
the palm
located?
trees, all the palm trees are green all year here.
Where are you located, Jerry?
I am in Palm Beach County, Florida. I'm
Mm.
about an hour and a half above Miami.
So it's
Pretty
hot down
area.
there.
I took a group out in the swamp this morning at 6:30 and it was already over 80 degrees.
That's not where you got the northern lights in your background, right?
Sorry?
That's not where
sorry?
you got the northern lights in your background, right?
Not exactly, no. No, for that you'd have to go to Fairbanks in February. I'll be here. Send me a postcard.
Or Door County. We've been getting them
Oh,
up
really?
there.
Really? Is that
Yeah.
so? Really?
Yeah, there's a dark sky park just about 5 miles away from us.
Oh, good for you. Wow. Is that Wapatki behind you? That's Wapatki.
You got it. It's
Yeah,
a
I can
pretty,
see it.
yeah. I'm amazed that you recognize it.
Oh,
Hardly anybody knows that.
I've been there many times. I know. Listen, I've been all over.
Yeah,
I
it's
when
little
they put
known, but it's a fantastic little place.
when they put in the gate at the entrance to the right of the visitor center about 20 years ago, I looked at the gate. I said, "You have to be kidding me." That gate took me about 3 seconds to get through. I'm not waiting till 9 o'clock to photograph those rocks. It's on my website. You can go to my website and just search Wapatki. And there's Sunset Crater and there's all the rest of them.
Yeah, that's right next door. It's a great area there.
I watch John Wayne movies. So there was a line in a movie about God bless the Indian chief says, God bless George Washington. So I got pulled over for speeding on Route 89 between Wapatki and Sunset Crater. My son was in the car. He was about 10 years old. And it was a Navajo police officer. It was a res on the res. And so he gave me a warning and this and that. So this is many years ago. And after he was through, I said, "God bless Barry Goldwater." That was my reference, my resonant reference to God bless George Washington in a John Wayne movie. He had to be there, I guess.
It also puts it in a frame, time frame, how long ago it really was.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, the photo
All
behind me,
right.
the Wapatki
If
photo, is
anybody
actually
wants to join the
infrared.
panel, please raise your Zoom hand and we'll bring you on in. Yeah, we're getting a few people here today.
Welcome to the panel, Mike.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Hey, Mike, long time no see.
Well, you got to get out to the track.
Yeah, I haven't been there for, oh God, year and a half.
I haven't been there for about 12 hours.
I know. I'm surprised you're here, but that's right. There's nothing going today, right?
There's a private thing. There's a Camaro event going on, a 4-day event. So I might go out later this afternoon just to play.
Wow. Yeah. Would be fun. I like Camaros. But yeah, well, one of these days I'll get back out there again. I just been so busy on weekends. And I got to admit, I've got 30 or 40,000 pictures, not anywhere close to what you have for Road America race cars. But
no, I've got like 150 TB.
Yeah,
Photographs.
yeah. Crazy. All right, well, we'll get started here. Welcome everybody to the digital forum for a nice, actually for Milwaukee, it's a nice Saturday morning. So we've got a fair number of people here so far, and we could use rain, that's for sure. We got a great lineup going. I've slowly been filling up the rest of the year, and we'll talk about that a little later, but we are getting a number of great speakers this year. We'll get started right away. We've got Jerry Ginsberg here, and Jerry is a master photographer, author, columnist, educator, explorer, conservationist, and a multi-award-winning photographer. His spectacular landscapes, nature, and travel images have appeared on the covers and pages of hundreds of books, magazines, travel catalogs, and websites. One of Jerry's most remarkable accomplishments is that he is the only photographer to have photographed all 63 American national parks using a heavy medium format camera. And those are not easy to lug around, even just in short places. A project that reflects not only extraordinary photographic skills, but also years of dedication, perseverance, and adventure. His passion for our national parks has earned him artist residencies in several parks across the United States, and he has appeared on ABC's Good Morning America and Nightline, discussing the challenges and rewards of photographing these national treasures. Jerry's work has been exhibited from coast to coast and has received numerous awards. His photographic archive spans virtually all of North and South America, as well as portions of Europe and the Middle East. Today, Jerry will share his black and white in the digital age. So please welcome Jerry Ginsberg, and you can catch him at jerryginsberg.com. So take it away, Jerry.
Okay, so I'm going to begin sharing my screen, if I can find that command. Okay.
Yeah, they've hit all that. They took away the nice green.
This will be a little different. Okay. Let's see if we can make this work.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not. Come on. I love technology. I can't get. Oh, there we go. Okay. View. This will take a second. All right. This hopefully will work. Okay. So our subject and our title this morning is a question of how to best do and interpret and produce fine art, black and white, in the digital age, obviously, as opposed with film. So the truth of the matter is, my analogy to this is the same way my father grew up with radio, and my generation and I grew up with television, and my son's generation grew up with the internet. It's really all the same basic, fundamental, I don't want to say rules, but principles and concepts, and no different. The medium is somewhat different, and the technology that's underlying it is different. So we have to understand and hopefully master the technology that's underlying the medium, but the idea, the core values really are the same. So what are they? Very simply put, it's two things. It's light and it's composition. If you can have the right light and the right composition, both of which takes years of practice to achieve a reasonable level of ability, you can master the medium. It's not hard. And I'm running a slideshow that you can see on your screen, hopefully, that's made up of black and white works of Edward Weston, like that pepper that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, Henri Cartier-Bresson, which is this fellow running across the puddle in Paris, and a fellow you may have heard of, his name used to be in all the papers, Ansel Adams, and many of my own images. I can speak to some of Adams and a few of the others to a degree. I know some of the backstories. I was a little too late in the game to have worked with Ansel Adams, but a friend of mine who bridges the gap has told me a lot of good first-person stories. So I'm happy to share those with you. But the idea is, number one, it's the light. You know, you remember there was a political consultant 30 years ago, give or take, and he's still on TV, who said, it's the economy, stupid. Well, the corollary is, it's the light, stupid. President company accepted. Without good light, you're not going to get a good photograph. So we're still relying on the light, and we're still relying on good and sound and artistic techniques and balancing a composition. But there are two things that make black and white different from color, not to be overly simplistic, but it's the absence of color, meaning that you're reducing all the forms and the shapes to their basic fundamental geometric shapes, and the geometry, in order to make a forceful image, has to work together in harmony to balance one against the other. And it's the ancestor of abstract art that's still based on the geometry of the forms in the image. It's the light, as you can see right there. There's a spot I'm sure many of you have seen in person. And the thing that makes black and white, the one possible attribute that makes black and white stand out, is the fact that its strongest asset is contrast, tonal contrast. There's no color contrast, so it's all tonal contrast, blacks, whites, and umpty-bump shades of gray. If you're working in 8-bit, it's 256 shades. And as you go up to 16-bit and 32-bit, that number climbs with a very high exponent. But the difference in there are two halves to all of this, and there always were. One is making the image. So how do we record the image on our chosen medium, whether it's a glass plate or a piece of silver-coated celluloid or a digital sensor and a digital card? That's one big difference and distinction, and the processing derives from that. The second thing is creating in post-processing, whether it's a wet darkroom or a computer, and I'm working on a little 15-inch PC laptop at the moment. I have more computers than Bayer has aspirin. The first thing you need to do is create a good, solid, raw file in the camera in terms of light and composition. I won't bore you by going into the basics, but years ago, not long ago, I live near a park, very popular park. In season, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photographers out there early in the morning. And for years, everybody was bumping into tripods. There were big, heavy tripods, leg to leg, all over the place. But the software has evolved, and the post-processing technology has evolved to the point where I brought out to my students earlier this morning that everybody's running around handheld and just leaning the lens maybe on the railing, but people are no longer afraid of high ISO with the noise reduction. So we don't have to worry, really. I have a 10, 12-pound tripod that's sitting in the back of the closet. I can't tell you the last time I pulled it out. I run around with a little travel portable Gitzo that weighs 2 pounds, and it's more than enough. More than enough. So that's a question of the advance of technology on a micro level. But getting back to the similarities, the first order of business is to create a winning composition in the camera. Now, these are all mixed in, and we can talk about these. One more thing before we go that far. Another big difference between what we, and I'm using the term collectively, those of us who are of a certain age used to do in a wet darkroom. And like most of you, I assume, my fingers many years ago, my fingers were stained with Dectol and Microdol X and you name it. Every print that we made from a negative, from the same negative, was an original work of art. We had to start every time we lined up the image on the easel below the enlarger lens. We had to think about how we were going to create this image in terms of tonality and not only the contrast, which was dictated to a degree by the negative and the choice of paper, the contrast baked into the various different papers. If everybody remembers F2 and F3 and variable contrast filters and all of that. But it's also the question that the local adjustments, the masking, the dodging and burning in the little micro contrast areas had to be done individually every time we lined up that image on the enlarging easel, what to do, how to do it, how to interpret that negative and that composition and that light to create a good print. So one example, and I don't think it's in this show to my regret, many people, I hope and I assume, are familiar with an Ansel Adams image titled Moonrise Hernandez. So it's at a little tiny church cemetery in Hernandez, New Mexico, and there's a rising moon behind the cemetery. And what makes the shot, I wish I could show it to you, I didn't plan well enough to have it in here, is the light was reflecting and glinting off a few of the crosses in the foreground. So every time Ansel Adams and his darkroom assistants, one of whom is still cranking them out, Alan Ross, you can go into the Ansel Adams Gallery in Yosemite, where I was last month, and they have a website, obviously, in the 21st century, and you can buy today for a nominal amount of money, a couple of $100, a print from an actual Ansel Adams negative printed currently by Alan Ross, who worked for Ansel Adams in the darkroom back in the day for about $200, and you can hang it on your wall and say that's a real original Ansel Adams. So the difference is whoever was making the print from that negative had to tweak the contrast, the exposure, the development time, but the local adjustments, meaning burning and dodging. If anybody is not clear on the definitions of burning and dodging and what they do, please go into the Q&A and ask now, and we'll stop and I'll explain it. Absent that, I'm going to assume that folks understand what that means, because the heart of black and white photography and image making and printmaking is contrast and the tonality and the range of tones, meaning, and I go back, we don't use it much anymore, the zone system. If anybody wants me to talk about the zone system, I'm happy to do it very quickly in 2 sentences. It goes from zone 0, which is jet black with no detail, and zone 10, which is white, which is no detail. It's all clipped, and everything in between 1 through 9 in varying degrees of exposure and detail. And that's how we did it back in the days when we had muzzle loading muskets. If you remember those, you're older than I am. But the difference is every print was an individual exercise. There was no repeatability. Today, once we labor either for a minute and do a slam dunk in Photoshop or Lightroom or Camera Raw, what have you, or any software, any post-processing software with a raw file, and get it up on the screen and move a couple of sliders and get it where we want, to a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, or 5 different iterations, and coming back and tweaking it over and over. Once you get that digital file on the screen, assuming your screen is calibrated, which is another issue, tangential. Once you get that image on the screen the way you want it, that is 100% repeatable ad infinitum. you can make 10, 50, 100, 1,000, 10,000 identical prints from that raw file, and they will all be uniform, assuming you keep your monitor calibrated and your workflow uniform. Okay. I have one image, it's not black and white, it's color. One particular image that I shot on the side of the road in California 26 years ago that has sold in the interim about 15 or 18,000 posters, not high-end prints, but low-priced posters on demand off the internet. And it never ceases to amaze me. That outsells everything. It's a very simplistic image, but people seem to like it. Be that as it may. So black and white, we have to watch the range of tones, the contrast ratio, the highlights, the midtones, the shadows, and the blacks, which brings me to another point. Instead of following a script, I'm just talking off the top of my head, which may or may not be the most uniform. There are two schools with regard to black and white. Half the world, and I know I didn't measure, I didn't take a census, half the world will say, oh my goodness, you must have shadow detail everywhere. You can't have anything clipped in the shadows. The other half of the world will say, not so fast. It's perfectly permissible and perfectly artistic if you do it prudently and judiciously and intentionally and creatively to have a little bit of black and white accent here and there. It punches up the image, gives you a little drama, and there's nothing wrong with going off the scale to zone 0. Some of you may agree with that, some of you may not, but that's what makes horse races. I will use black and white very judiciously where I think it fits, and it helps to it helps to add to the final image. To quote Ansel Adams again, you've all heard this one: rich blacks and clean whites. By rich blacks, he did not mean mid-tone gray. He made rich blacks. Here's an image just to give you an example, if I can get this to pause. This is shot with a digital SLR APS-C years ago when there was no full frame to speak of, on a converted 720 nanometer infrared shot. This is no filter. This is very little post-processing. This is almost the way it came out of the camera. I also have the exact same shot. This is a 20 millimeter lens no, this is a full frame shot with a 20 millimeter lens hanging off the boardwalk. You can figure out that this is the Old Faithful Geyser Basin in Yellowstone. This is the way it came out of the camera, and with infrared, depending upon the degree of blacks and whites you have, you don't have to do a lot of post-processing. I was very enamored of Kodak infrared film, ISO ASA 6 in high school, so I'm thrilled to have a bunch of converted DSLRs on the shelf in varying degrees of infrared, one of which is full spectrum, and be able to do infrared. As much as I enjoy black and white, and I'll talk about conversions, I get a real kick, I get a real hoot out of infrared because, and I'll show you a couple further down the line, you can take it and do anything you want with it. And it almost, if you compose it right and you learned how to look at a C, and that's the operant word C in black and white, you can create a finished image with minimal muss and fuss. Any questions so far?
Yeah, so far nothing showing up. So
Nothing. All right. So I assume everybody has been taking good notes. There will be a pop quiz. Okay. So I'm going to put my sunglasses on and look at my next topic. We don't, but by not having film, we don't enjoy the miracle, and many of you, I'm sure, have enjoyed it, of seeing the image appear in the tray of developer. Just watch it come to life. Now, let's talk about getting uniform result. I hope that most people are aware of the need to calibrate their monitor. First of all, any monitor will drift over time. If you use the same monitor for your whole life, digital life or internet and email and whatever, it's going to drift faster than if you just used it for photography and nothing else. But once in a while, and I do it once a month or once every 5 weeks or so, I take a few minutes and I calibrate my monitor. I bought a device years ago. I have a whole shelf full of the different models, from X-Rite, which has sold out their business, to Calibrite. It's C-A-L-I-B, excuse me, Calibrite. They're the market leader today. You buy a device, you download the free software, they talk to each other, and the idea is to set the parameters, the metrics of your monitor to what are loosely called industry standards. What are they? There are basically 3 metrics, and they're pretty uniform. One is to get the brightness, which is expressed as candle power or CDM or CDM2 or CDM square. Heaven forbid they should standardize on uniform technology. It's 120 candle power brightness. If you're at 119 or 121, you'll be fine. If your monitor is much darker than standard, and you print from that, and you're looking at the monitor, you're thinking that you have it correct, but it's really too dark. So the effect is that your print is going to either come out of the printer or come back from the service bureau too light because your monitor was too dark. Conversely, if your monitor is too light, and this happens, and some monitors are variable and some aren't, if your monitor is too light, you're going to look at it and think that that's normal, and your print is going to come back too dark. So what do? You calibrate the monitor with this nominally priced $200-300 device and the free software, and hopefully a variable monitor with a brightness control, and you can get it to at 120 candle power or as close as possible to get the right brightness. That's one metric. The other one is really fixed, is the gamma. The gamma is 2.2. Nobody uses anything else. It's 2.2, period. There's not a lot of room for discussion. The third parameter is the color temperature. Now, your answer may be, but Jerry, we're doing black and white. What's with the color temperature routine? If you want it to be neutral black and white, and you want it to be on the network, and you want it to reproduce the way you want it to reproduce, not to be redundant, you want 6,500 degrees Kelvin. Unfortunately, there's no standardization of terminology there either. It's either D65 or 6,500 or 6,500 K or Kelvin or some derivative thereof. I can't keep up with how many there are, but it's all 6,500 Kelvin. What does that do? It gives you a neutral black and white, but you're starting from a uniform. If you're doing a conversion from color, you're starting from a standard uniform starting point, which helps. You don't want to be disappointed if you spent 20 or 50 or 100 or $200 to get a paper or a metal or whatever substrate print back from Bay Photo or whomever and end up with something that you didn't want. Unfortunately, over time, I've ripped up a few prints that came in the door and been able to standardize on a couple of printers. There's a great custom printer down here. If anybody's near Jupiter, Florida, let me know. I'll send you over there. They are not cheap. This is not Walgreens. This is custom work. And there are plenty of good custom labs around. The other thing is, and this is really counterintuitive. Hold on one second. I'm just going to take.
And Jerry, we do have one question with the calibrating the monitor. Do you do it
Sure.
in the dark or in daylight, or what type of lighting, if
Right.
it matters?
Good. Excellent question. You should do it in an environment and a light as close to that in which you'll be doing your post-processing as possible. whether it's in the evening or the shades or the drapes or the room interior ambient light or whatever. You don't want a drastic difference between the light in which you're calibrating it and the light in which you're going to use it. There's no scientific measure. As long as you get close, you should be reasonably good to go. Now, that said, I have a big ISO graphics monitor that has a three-sided sunshade on it, so it's not really affected. It's no different than a sunshade, a lens hood on a lens. It's keeping the light off the front element, so this is shielding the surface of the monitor from a lot of the ambient light floating around. If you can get something like that, or make a piece out of cardboard, you'll be a little bit ahead of the game. So I hope
Yeah.
I've answered the question, but any follow-ups are fine with me.
Sure.
The last thing on this is work in RGB, either Adobe RGB 1998 or ProPhoto, which is largely a theoretical color space. Work in those color spaces, even though you're producing black and white. Whether you're starting with black and white image from a converted camera or a converted camera, whether it's infrared or not. There are a couple of people, manufacturers, who sell monochrome cameras today. If you're starting from grayscale, you're throwing away 2/3 of the data. So let's say, for the sake of argument, you were working in a 16 with a 16-bit workflow. The camera is 14-bit, and you have a 300 megabyte file in RGB. If you convert that to grayscale, you're down to 100 megabyte. You just threw away 2/3 of the data because you're compressing it back to 3 colors in each pixel, and that's going to limit the size print, the size magnification you can get. Conversely, even if it's all black and white like this has no hint of color or tone at all. This is strictly black, white, and gray. This is an RGB file, because this way I get the maximum data, the maximum information that I can reproduce, and I can make a print without extrapolating any pixels that's much larger than if I were working in grayscale. Which brings me to another point. If you're shooting black and white and the original is in black and white, whether it's film or it's scanned, or it's like this with infrared, or it's a converted camera from the manufacturer, yes, there is no color. It's all black and white. However, if you're shooting in a normal, unconverted, untampered with camera, and you put it in the black and white mode, don't kid yourself. You're still shooting in color. There's no such thing. If the camera's not converted, it's shooting in color. Trust me. Okay? So you might as well shoot it in color and look at it and try to compose the scene or try to see it in black and white. Let's go back to the slideshow. This is Ansel Adams. This is, I guess it's Death Valley. It may not be. These could be the dunes near Pismo Beach, California. The idea with this is, look at the tonality. He goes from black. This is, let me see if I can find the cursor. I spent half my day looking for the stupid cursor. Back in here somewhere in the left middle, that's pretty much black. Over here, you have black on the right in the dune. Back here, you have almost white. You have almost white here. You do have some really white spots in the sky, and you have everything else is in between. Look for a minute at this, and you'll find this in almost any Ansel Adams print. It's the tonal gradation. It goes from black to white and white to black, and every possible shade of gray in between. It's got a gentle graduation of tonality, and it just looks right. The eye will accept it. There are two people in every picture, the photographer and the viewer. You want, one of your goals, one of many goals, is that the viewer should see the image and look at it, and if you've safely or effectively hidden your footprints well enough, the viewer is going to, unless he's some kind of a nut photographer like we are, like I am, he or she is going to look at this image and say, well, it's a homogeneous image. this is what it looks like, this is the way it was, and not try to deconstruct it and break it down. This looks smooth. There are no abrupt transitions. It's a smooth gradation from black to white and everything in between. Asterisk footnote on sand dunes, the idea with sand dunes, with ripples, anything with ripples, not just sand dunes. I love sand dunes. I've been to Death Valley multiple times and White Sands in New Mexico multiple times. And Monument Valley is a great spot for this. The idea is when the sun is really close to the horizon, whether it's morning or evening, and you can get the angle of the sun not to be high enough, it's still low enough so that it doesn't illuminate the low points. In these ripples, you can get contrast across the ripples. So you can see where over here, the sun was really low, and over there, this is facing the sun, whether it was east or west, morning or evening, and it was more front lit, but this is side lit. And side lit is usually good for texture as a rule of thumb. So hopefully we all learned about front light, backlight, side light. And if you want texture, go to side light. So this image is just artistically done. It's beautifully done. There's a little white, there's a little black. If you saw the histogram, you would see how well distributed the blacks and whites and the grays are. It just goes smoothly across the whole range of tonality. Okay, here's one if you've ever been to Yosemite Valley in the winter. If you come here, and it's just an anomaly of history, right around Ansel Adams' birthday, that waterfall, if all conditions are right, at sunset will glow yellow. So you may have seen one called Firefall, that's called Horsetail Falls, and for about an hour and a half a year, if 3 parameters fall right into place like 3 cherries on a slot machine, you can get a shot of that glowing. If you want to see mine, go to my website at jerryginsberg.com and just type in Firefall, and you'll see how that lights up. It looks like the light is coming from within the rock and facing out. It's a fantastic experience. I've been there 10 times. I got it once. So it's very hit and miss. But you'll see how this has a tonal gradation. He's using the black. Whoops, sorry. The black at the bottom of the frame, this is the foreground. This is allowing your eye to go up in here where he wants to direct the viewer's eye to the subject, to the focal point of interest, which is in fact the waterfall. So another one of our jobs as photographers, and this is true in all forms of composition, because we are limited, we're not Michelangelo working in a 3-dimensional hunk of marble, where we have height, width, and depth. We are just poor photographers working in a minimized 2-dimensional medium of height and width and no depth. So it's often a good device or a technique. I avoid the word rule. It's a good technique to try to provide the implication or the cue of distance and depth in a photograph to give the viewer the feeling of normalcy that there are 3 dimensions. So even though it's a 2-dimensional medium, you get a little feeling of depth from the foreground and and the background. If you want to see an exaggerated use of depth and near far, you can go to the website of my dear friend and coach and teacher, David Munch, who pioneered a lot of extreme near and far years and years ago. He just turned 90 a month ago. And we can learn a lot from him. And I learned a lot about composition years and years and years, more years ago than I care to count, sitting at the dining room table with Ansel Adams books of big black and white prints and just staring at a print for 20, 30 minutes and an image and deconstructing it. So when I say to you today that the black is used judiciously and it's a foreground that's leading your eye into the image, and this piece of rock over here, and this has been done with and without by a lot of people, and Galen Rao and this guy, that guy, and the other guy, and me, with using this or not using it or getting past it. It's a question of using these different layers as leading the viewer's eye from near to far into the image. And it's all done with a method to the madness. None of this is totally without a plan. It may be spontaneous. It may be with experience that you look at it and you can compose it very quickly and know what's effective, but it's all done with a geometric plan, I promise you. This is one of mine. This was Monument Valley, sunset. I just happened to stumble on the sky. It was not skill. It was just dumb luck that I showed up on the day when this was happening about an hour before sunset, but at least I had the good sense to know what to do with it and shimmy down the hill a little bit, which you can no longer do because there's a big fat fence there now, and shoot with an infrared converted camera at 720 nanometers and get the blacks and the whites. And there's very little of this. I probably cleaned up a few specks in the cloud to make it nice and neat without distractions. But I probably didn't do much with the contrast or the blacks or the whites. This is basically the way the camera saw it. And it's another axiom. I don't know who created this one. It's too old to know. F8 and be there. So I did not do much in skill other than to know what to do with this when I saw it. And that's what I mean by F8 and be there. Because if you're home on the couch, I guarantee you're not going to get this image. You have to be there. You have to be out. So this was a question of skill and luck. I looked into it, but I knew what to do with it. And this is one reason why I'm very enamored of converted infrared cameras. And I have my pet service bureaus that are not perfect, but they're pretty good. Any questions on this or anything we've done in the interim since the calibration?
Yeah, no, nothing so far.
Okay. Okay. So I'm very happy that this software is working today. I can't tell if this is Alaska or where this is. This is one of the few. I really don't know where it is. This is Ansel Adams. And again, is it the repetition on a theme? Sure it is. It's the whites and the blacks and the grays in between. But that's what black is all about. It's about the contrast and the tonal gradation. Now, it's a fact that human, maybe all mammals, I don't know, but the human visual system from the eye to the optic nerve to the brain will go first. The first point of attraction is the whitest spot in the image. The second is the brightest. Not everything has white. The third is the area of most greatest contrast. So you can see that the reflection, and that's a matter of luck, and you have to have a calm day without a lot of wind because the wind will kill your reflection. But you have the cloud and the mountain reflecting in the lake, and that's part of what makes this. The placement of the horizon line is no different than in any other photograph. You have to be prudent and get what you want. And the best compositions, and I repeat this till I'm blue in the face to students of all skill levels, the best competitions are the strongest compositions, are the simplest compositions. Don't try to put too much in one frame. Keep it simple, or keep it simple stupid, as they used to say, the KISS principle. Less is more, I promise you. So the three principles, I'll quote Ansel Adams, a good photograph depends on where you stand. What did he mean? Camera position, left, right, turn around, stand on a ladder, crouch down, lie on your belly. It all depends. It's camera position. A few feet to the left or right could change the whole world. It's what to include and what to exclude. And here's a very good mantra. Whatever element, whatever compositional element you have in the viewfinder, in the image, if it's not helping, it's hurting. I promise you. There is nothing benign that's of no effect. Everything that you place in the composition is either helping it or hurting it. No in between. So if you want to be safe, throw away a lot of stuff, exclude it, and keep it simple. I promise you, you're going to end up at the end of the day with a better portfolio of stronger images. Okay? What's this? I don't know if anybody's ever heard of him, but down here in Florida, there's a gentleman who's like the second coming of Ansel Adams in black and white, named Clyde Butcher. Just the way it sounds, very phonetic. And he's all over the internet. He's got books, he's got galleries, he sells prints for $10,000 and more. This is out in the swamp in the Everglades. These are dwarf cypress trees, and he's got a vertical. This is probably a very wide angle lens on a 5x7 camera with a sheet of film, black and white film. And he's got the cloud in the very center and the moon. I don't know if it's rising or setting. I could figure it out. Actually, this moon is setting because I happen to know which way the road goes. In the late in the afternoon, and he's got it balanced perfectly. Is it normal that everything will work symmetrically if it's centered and balanced, and there are no lines, no diagonals, no verticals? You just got a horizontal line of the horizon. Will it ordinarily most of the time work with everything so symmetric? No, it won't. But Clyde Butcher is a master of composition, and he's got it figured out. On the other hand, for all I know, he shot a dozen sheets of film and only chose this one to print. But it works because it's, number one, simple. Number two, it's got a great tonal gradation from black sky to white cloud and everything in between. And he didn't try to get fancy. He didn't try to put too much in the image. It's a simple composition of geographic elements from the trees to the horizon line to the cloud to the one spot of a moon in a dark sky. A word on shooting the moon. I think there's an eclipse this week, if I recall correctly. Shooting the moon. Don't try, it's not a good idea to try to shoot a long exposure of a full moon when the moon is full. The problem is that with the motion of the Earth, if you have a perfectly round moon and you leave the shutter open for 2 or 3 or 4 seconds, you're going to get an elliptical, elongated, non-round moon. It's that simple. But if you shoot, let's say, 2 or 3 nights or mornings before and after the full moon, when the moon is less than full, and the shutter's open for 2 and 3 seconds, the movement of the Earth, the rotation of the Earth, will help to fill in the blank spot left by the diminished moon and try to make it look more round than it really is. So there's something that not a lot of people are aware of. The other thing is really simple. If the Earth makes a revolution of 360 degrees every 24 hours, and we divide 24 into 360, the answer is 15. Ergo, when we hit the equinox and the sun exactly dead on the horizon, east and west, 12 hours a day and 12 hours of night, you get a motion of the sun and the moon of 15 degrees an hour. So if you look at something and you say, well, gee, I guess the sun is either too high or too low by about, I don't know, 10 degrees. And you can figure that out easily. And I'll tell you how in a minute. 10 degrees at 15 degrees an hour is 40 minutes. So if you're willing to wait 40 minutes, you can get the sun 10 degrees or the moon, whatever, higher or lower than it is now. I promise you. That'll work. Now, the seasonal variability may be a little different, but it's still 15 degrees an hour. The days get longer and shorter, obviously, unless you live on the equator and like that. I was going to make some other comment on that. I lost my train of thought. But assume it's 15 degrees an hour. So you can see if the sun is a little bit a titch below the cloud and the cloud's going up, the sun's going down. In a few minutes, 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes, the sun's going to clear the cloud unless another one comes along. And you can estimate that. That is my seat of the pants answer to the photographer's ephemeris. I bought that app. I've never figured out how to use it. I have no idea. I have no interest. The light's going to hit where it's going to hit, and I better figure it out in advance. The one thing I do use is photo pills, Pills. for the simple reason that'll give me, based on my coordinates anywhere on Earth, and the date, the times of sunrise, sunset, moonrise, moonset, moon apogee, and so forth and so on, so I can know when to be out. I know how much sleep I can get, or when I have to get up, and I can work it out like that. Moving along. This is an interesting one. This is a couple of years ago, I was the artist in residence in Badlands National Park. And there are two discontiguous pieces to Badlands. This is in the main area, which I think is the north piece. It's called Blue Mesa. This is a black and white infrared shot with a converted camera, and this is the way it is. This is what you see. The light is on this piece of rock and the shadows on this piece of rock, and this alternates. You've got dark, light, dark, light. And I anchored the composition with these little nubs on these rocks, and it flows back over here, and hopefully you'll think that it's a balanced composition. And now I learned something from someone, photographer, I don't know if he's still with us, named Howard Bond, B-O-N-D, lived in years ago. I was in his house in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'm sure you can find his work online somewhere. And he showed me something that he did. This is the way it really was. The next image is the same image. This is the same frame, but reversed. So it's a negative. That's exactly what this is. This is a digital negative. And the way to do that in Photoshop is with one click on two keys at the same time. It could not be easier. Now, word to the wise, it doesn't work on a lot of images. You have to have the right shot. Some days it'll work, some days it won't. He did a lot of work with that with flowers in his basement studio, and they were just stunning. This is my attempt to use his methodology. If anybody wants to know how to flip any image on the screen from positive to negative or the reverse, just put it in the Q&A and I'll explain it. If nobody asks, I'll assume you're not interested. But I think this is a hoot. I enjoy this. It's never sold. It's never been published. It probably never will be. But somehow or another, I seem to enjoy it. It brings a smile to my face. And you may find something, some situation where it works. Okay, now, infrared. When you shoot a raw file with an infrared converted camera, assuming it's a fixed spectrum, it's not variable, it's almost certainly going to come out like this. What the heck do you do with that? I thought you'd never ask. This comes under the heading of a broader heading, much broader than just this, of how today, with digital, to best convert a color image to black and white. This is an important subject, and we really need to cover this in detail, because if you don't get it right, you're not optimizing your image. The worst ways to do it, the worst, please don't ever do this, are to change the color space from whatever you're in to grayscale. Don't do it. The second worst way is to just take the saturation slider and turn it down to 0. Please don't do it. It's terrible. A year ago, or maybe 2 years ago, I would have said to everyone who asked, and I did many times, the best way to convert a color image to black and white is get or buy the Nik, N-I-K, the Nik collection from DxO. It's 8 apps, one of which is something called Silver Effects, E-F-E-X, Silver Effects Pro. I don't know what number they're up to now. I don't know, 4, 5, 6, I've lost track.
Yeah, they're up to 9.
9. I saw the other day there was something 9. And yeah, I mean, I got off the track a long time ago. I don't go crazy for every update, because for every update they give you something, they take something else away. Leave me alone. I'd be very happy to go back to 1896 with a good quarter horse if I could take antibiotics and air conditioning. Other than that, I don't need it. The point being, I digress. The point being, that is really a good way of converting color to black and white. Why? It gives you 62 or 4 presets, and you can scroll through them and mouse over them and see how the image is going to look real time. My advice is, if you try that, if you get that software, which is very good, and you mouse over these presets, keep a note, a pen and paper, a notepad handy, because if you like something, make a note of it. And as you move ahead and move forward, you may find something you like better, or you may want to go back to that one. And every time you move from preset X to preset Y, it wipes out, there's no memory, it wipes out, there's no history, it wipes out what you've looked at before. So you're going to drive yourself crazy trying to remember what preset it was that you liked. So make a note. That said, these are presets, meaning they move, all they do is move the various sliders, and there are a lot of sliders. They move the sliders to all different positions and contortions and configurations to give you what is truly a preset. And your image is no longer raw. You cannot save it as raw. You must save it as a TIFF or probably a PSD. If you save it as a nick layer in Photoshop, some people save it as a smart object so they can go back in and re-edit it. I never took a liking to smart objects. I'm probably not that smart. I don't do it. I will save it as a regular Photoshop layer, and it says Nick, black and white, or silver effects or whatever, and it gives me a layer mask. It takes a few seconds to process, and it pops up with a layer mask. Years ago, I discussed this with DxO before they bought Nick from Google, and they only had global adjustments. And I convinced them, guys, you need the means of local adjustments. The world is not built on global adjustments only. So they bought Nick. Not that I got them to buy it, but it went all into the pot. Nick has something called U-point technology where you can make masks and you can see how the mask falls off, and it does adhere to the Adobe nomenclature of black hides and white reveals. But somehow or another, it's not the ideal thing in the world. I'm not in love with it. You can do a lot with it. Each mask, you can make the mask, you can duplicate it, you can move it, you can shape it, and it has a bunch of sliders in terms of contrast and lights and darks and so forth and so on, and you can do a lot with it. I create my own successes and failures. I take that Nick layer that's there, and I open that up, and I go into my layer stack in Photoshop, and I will then treat that as an ordinary run-of-the-mill Photoshop layer and layer mask. And I will use my curves and 10 other Photoshop adjustment layers, specified specialty adjustment layers, choosing the appropriate blending mode, which is important at the same time. And I will work on that image on a local basis, on a local image. That's now used to be the best way of doing it. It's now, in my opinion, the second best way of doing it, and I'll tell you why. This is the same image processed, and I played around with the tonality. I put the bright area of the sky behind the tree. I faded it out in the corners. I alternated the highlights and shadows on the water. That's the Pacific Ocean. This is the Washington Olympic coast in Washington State. And I got a little foreground here and so forth. You'll see that the infrared turns some of the foliage white. I played with this a few times. I could do better. I like it, but it's not perfect. It'll get better one day. Do I want to brighten the leaves? I don't know if I want to do that. Don't want to go that far. How did I do this? If you go into Camera Raw or Lightroom, and that's a whole different discussion. I'm a Camera Raw guy. I'm not a Lightroom guy. 10 million people can't be crazy, but it's not for me. I stick to Bridge and Camera Raw and Photoshop and a few plugins. Actually, at a conference one day, I told somebody I was using Bridge. They threatened to call security on me. Because you're not using Lightroom, you're a heretic. But excuse me, if you go into Camera Raw or Lightroom, you have profiles. And how to do it is a whole, I can try to, let's see if I can show you real quick and do this and open this in Camera Raw. It's the same thing in Lightroom, I promise you. It's the same interface with a little different shape of button. And take this over here, and it's not easy to see. I hate not finding the cursor. This drives me nuts. Oh, here we are. There's a little icon with 3 squares and a dot, whatever that's supposed to represent. I don't know. It's very simple. Click on this. Do not mouse over these. Scroll down. Go to B and W. Click on this. Now scroll down again. You now have a bunch of real-time, mouseable, hoverable profiles with all different contrast ratios and different interpretations. Choose any one. These are not presets. What's the difference? A preset means that it's moving the sliders and you're converting your raw file, which is purely malleable and the broadest spectrum it'll ever have, you're converting your raw file into something that's baked in like a TIFF. In this case, whether it's Camera Raw or Lightroom Local or Lightroom Classic or possibly, I don't know, Camera One, I'm not familiar with Camera One to any great degree, you choose the profile. It does not move any sliders. You can choose any profile you want, and then you can hit the Enter key or Edit key and go back to the main interface. This baby is still raw. You have not harmed 1 pixel on its delicate little head. You can play with these sliders up and down this entire interface of global. And if I hit M, masking, and there's a whole, I'm not going to go through it, but you know what the interface is below that, all day long, and you will still have a truly, truly, truly raw, pure image. You have not harmed 1 pixel on its little baby head. So I find this to be, number one, extremely flexible in terms of both global and local adjustments, and at the same time, a purist way of working in that you're maintaining the raw nature of the file and the pixels as long as humanly possible until you export it into Photoshop or wherever you want to do it through the export tab. So you can perfect this, you can finish this off and maintain it in RAW up until the very last second when you choose to save it as a TIFF or a PSD or whatever. Now, hopefully that ought to spark a little interest and a few questions, because I got to tell you, I think that's one of the neatest things going today. And even though I have all kind of iterations of Nick Silver Effects Pro, which is an excellent program on different computers, and I've discussed this with Vincent Versace many times, and he's one of the major contributors to black and white conversions and Nick and Silver Effects Pro from day one. I favor this. If I would, whatever I'm doing, if I'm doing color to black and white, if I'm doing infrared to black and white, I will do that workflow today in preference to anything else. And here you can see the histogram. Nothing's clipped. Everything's in the middle. I could spread them out. I can do them together. I can do whatever I want to do. And it's all raw. And it stays raw as late as possible. So think it over and see if you have a question somewhere on that, because I find that to be a really, really neat way forward. And I have not been in the past a big fan of Mr. Adobe updating everything every 15 minutes. But when they came out with this, I said, ooh, that's for me. So anybody has a question, please don't hesitate.
We do get a couple, but one was, would a red filter enhance a dark sky when you're using infrared converted cameras?
The answer is maybe. Okay, what do I mean by that? It all. If anybody remembers John Shaw, the answer is it all depends. If you use a red filter on this image, I don't think it's going to help you as much as, I mean, it's a very good question, as much as using the local and global adjustments in Lightroom and Camera Raw. Now, that said, if you go into Silver Effects Pro, there are all kinds of different film types and filters. They have red and yellow and orange and green filters that will simulate what we used to use as a glass filter over the lens with black and white film and strive to give you that kind of effect. So the answer is I suggest that you play with it and experiment and try it. That said, comma, I have not, and I don't really at this point intend using filters over this. If I want to change the tonality, I will either go into the black and white mixer in Lightroom and Camera Raw, or go to the color filter. You can go in Photoshop. There's a color filter. I think that's what they call it. Adjustment layer. And you can do it globally or locally and play with it to your heart's content. There is nothing, excuse me, I apologize. Bear with me. Kermit the Frog entered my throat and died. There is nothing that you can't do in color filters in Camera Raw, Lightroom, and Photoshop. So yeah, try it. But in my opinion, if you shoot with an infrared converted camera that's converted with a fixed nanometer spectrum of black and white, there's 550, which leaves in the most color. It goes 550, 665, 720, 750, 850, 950, something like this. And every time you go up, it takes out more and more color, and you're left with starker blacks and starker whites. So if you go up to 950, there's not much you can do with the file. It's pretty much what you see come out of the camera. I choose, and most people will recommend, 720 nanometers, which is in the middle. It's a compromise. It has some color, which you can keep in or take out really easily with a click. That said, there's another flavor to this. There's something called full spectrum, a conversion of full spectrum, where the sensor is variable. They convert it with a filter over the sensor that's totally variable. You're not locked into any one degree of infrared conversion, and you then have to buy actual glass filters that go over the lens and change the visible light spectrum hitting the sensor to that degree of IR conversion. You can buy a 665 filter, a 720 filter, an 820 filter, and each one will give you the representative spectrum of what it would have been had you converted the camera to that degree of infrared. At the same time, you can buy, for the same camera with the full spectrum, you can buy a quote unquote normal filter, so it'll work normally like anybody's off-the-cuff natural in color camera that was never converted. You can also buy an IR chrome and a day for night filter. If anybody ever worked in Hollywood, you know what day for night is. And you can see the difference, and they use that on the Lord of the Rings movies and so forth. They use these filters, and you get a whole range, a whole panoply of different degrees of infrared conversion. The bug with that is the darker the filter you put on the lens, the tougher it is to see through the lens. So unless you have a camera like one of the Sonys with the separate viewfinder, actually it's still looking through the lens, you have to, when I say you have to, I'll give you an example. A year and a half ago, I was on top of a mountain in Switzerland, in the shoulder season in October, early in the morning, it's like 10 degrees out. And I got the camera set up on a tripod on a piece of sidewalk, and I'm standing in the snow, and the wind is blowing, and I compose the shot, and I put the filter on, and I get the shot as shown to me on the monitor on the back of the camera. Now, before I recompose, I can't see a bloody thing through the lens. Before I recompose, I have to take the filter off, recompose, start all over again, and then put the filter back on or choose a different filter because you can't see through the bloody thing. So there's a yin and a yang to everything. There's no perfect answer. I hope I've answered your question. If not, please post a follow-up.
Yeah, and while we're talking about the infrared and different cameras, we had somebody, Ron, asked, please explain the different advantages between infrared and full spectrum. You sort of covered that.
Okay, all right, let me tackle that. An infrared conversion, when you choose the degree of infrared conversion, the degree of color you're throwing out, and the standard is 720. Don't fool around with a bunch of other stuff. It gets very expensive to start experiment with that stuff. If you want to do one, do 720 nanometers. Any competent technician will know exactly what you mean, and I guarantee you he or she does 95% of his conversions at 720. It's just the right amount to work with in a normal workflow of the absence of color, but not being too stark and too extreme. Do 720, 550 or 5, I think it's 550 is the minimum, leaves a lot of color in. You're going to have to do a lot more post-processing, but you can have infrared with a little color. And on the other end of the spectrum, 950 is it's fixed at 950. You've got blacks and whites and very, very little in between. And that's where you're stuck. You can't do much with the tonality and the gradation in post-processing. And you'll see that. With full spectrum, you can drive yourself a little nuts. I have about 4, I think, cameras that have been converted to 720 and one with full spectrum. And the proof of the pudding is whenever I have to pack up to go traveling, which I did recently, I'll take one body with 720 and somehow or another, and it's not by design, it's just spontaneous, the full spectrum camera never gets off the shelf. And I have a bunch of filters, and I really should use them. I should get used to using them. If you go to my website and you search Bodie, Bodie, it's a sort of a ghost town in California, just east of Yosemite, and it was abandoned about 100 years ago. And I did a lot of shooting there with infrared because I'm there in the middle of the day. It's the only thing you can use. And I did a lot with black and white, and there are many there with a lot of blue left in them. Many of the images are the same shot with blue and without blue. So, go take a look, put them up on the screen, put them side by side, and you'll see the differences. But if you're going to do one camera, do 720. I'll save yourself a lot of money and pain and aggravation and experimentation. Do 720 nanometers.
Yeah, I find
Yeah,
that's the one I use the most.
That's only one man's opinion. You can find there's nothing I say that's absolutely right or anybody's absolutely wrong. You can talk to 10 people and get 12 opinions, and nobody's wrong. But that's
Yep.
my preference. I can't share with you everything under the sun. What I'm eager to share with you is the product of my 30 umpty-bump years of trial and error. That I can do. And I've discarded a lot of stuff along the way with the idea of simplifying it and making a streamlined workflow where I can do the greatest good with the greatest number in the least amount of time. That's my goal.
Yep. Yep. And we did have 2 people that wanted to know how to convert back and forth to a negative.
Okay.
You were talking about that.
Okay. Hopefully you're a Photoshop user. Let me put my glasses on. Let me go back to that puppy. We can take any one, actually. Maybe this is going to be a really stark representation. I want to take the most stark, unrealistic representation. If you take this and you go from raw and you open it in Photoshop. Yes, it's going to be a TIFF. It's not going to be raw again. Oh, come on. Come on, will
Yeah.
you? Oh, I see what's happening. It's how to open Photoshop. All right. Oh, please, come on. I don't think I had Photoshop open.
Yeah, no, it doesn't look like it's open, and you're
Come on, will you?
probably
Oh, here we go.
straining.
All right.
There it goes.
All right. I mean, we
You're
can
just
take a,
you're using the full capability of your computer right now. So
right. I know. I know. Anybody wants to take a restroom break? We'll reconvene in half an hour. Okay. All right.
here it comes.
Da, 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 da. Okay. So if we open this, let's get past this nonsense. Let's find the cursor. Where's the bloody cursor?
Up in the very top left there, or
Top
top
left.
right, I should say. Top right.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. So here we have, I'd like to see if I can move this. Okay, here. This is my normal workspace, configured layout. I have my histogram, I have my layers panel, and I have my adjustments and my properties panel superimposed. This is how I work. I don't have to think about it. It's intuitive. And when I get my network rebuilt, hopefully this week, I will have a very nice, my monitor setup where I have the image on my 24-inch monitor, and I have everything else, all these panels and any tool panels I choose to open on my 17-inch El Cheapo off-the-shelf monitor that doesn't have to be calibrated or anything. It doesn't matter what it is because it's never seeing an image, okay? So I take this, and if you want to be safe and give yourself a little insurance policy and a little cushion, you can duplicate. This is your base layer. This is locked. So let me find the cursor again. Okay, you can unlock this by double clicking right here, and you can say layer 0, okay, and suddenly it's layer 0, the padlock is gone. You can now do anything with this that you want, but I would strongly advise against it. Now, it helps to be familiar with keyboard shortcuts. Not everybody is. There are millions of them. I use maybe the top 50, and I will tell you, if you're doing a lot of images, keyboard shortcuts are a huge time saver. If you can save yourself 15 seconds on 1,000 images, that is no longer a de minimis amount of time. So the keyboard, you can go into here, whoops, and you can go to layer, and you can go to duplicate. I got to put my glasses back on. You can go to, I don't know if that's duplicated. Okay, let's assume that. And you can duplicate it, and it's going to ask you if you want to call it 0 copy, whatever. You can rename it. And suddenly you have an exact copy of this right here. No muss, no fuss. Conversely, let's trash this. You can just go to, with this open, and the active layer is highlighted in gray, as you see. There's only one layer. And you go to, on a PC, it's Control J. On a Mac, it's Command J. And you push the Control or Command and the J at the same time. It will duplicate the layer. All right? Everybody, I hope I haven't lost anyone yet. So the safe way to do this is to duplicate the base layer. And then all you have to do is press simultaneously a PC control or a Mac command, control or command, and the letter I at the same time. What's I? It's invert. Bada bing. And there you have a negative. Is that easy? Could it be any easier? And you can take this eyeball and you can click it on and off, visible, toggle the visibility, and you now have a negative. in addition to the keyboard shortcut, what I could have done was gone to, again, to the layer thingy up here and just said invert somewhere. Somewhere there's a command for invert or inverse. I don't know. I've never done it. No adjustment layer mask, blah, 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 blah. Maybe
Yeah,
it's on, no, you know where
I've-
it is? It's it's
I
under
don't know if
select.
it's,
It's
yeah,
under maybe under selection. Okay. Somewhere there's a command to invert. Oh,
right.
there it is. It's grayed out. It's grayed out. I don't know why, but it's great because there's no, oh, because the selection is the, oh, it's inverted. It's the entire layer. There's no selection per se. There's no local adjustment. So my easy answer
I
is
think it's under, if I remember right, it's under image.
might be. Okay. Don't give yourself a migraine. Just go here. Let's see what's under here.
Yeah, I believe
Image rotation. I don't see. I
boy,
don't see.
I
I
I
think.
do
I
the
think.
same thing you do. I use the control. I use the shortcut.
You know,
So
you use the shortcuts long enough, they become so second nature and so
yeah,
intuitive. You go to Command Control I, bada bing. Okay, and hopefully that answers the question. But I'm very anxious to make sure that nobody comes away with a gray area, no pun intended, not being clear on it. It's that simple, and you can do it with the base layer. You can do it without creating a duplicate layer, but then you're impinging on the base layer. You don't want to do that. You want to protect it.
yeah,
So for the couple of megabytes that it's worth, you might as well duplicate the layer. If you want to then flatten it later, you want to duplicate it, duplicate the image and flatten one and not the other, there are 6 million stories in the naked city. You can do it any which way, but it's that simple. You can also do it with a mask. If you paint on the layer mask, you create a mask here. If you go down here, you can create a layer mask and you can take the brush tool. And if we want to brush on
Jerry, you got yourself muted, and I'm not sure how.
mute, okay, unmute. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
You can brush on it. You created a layer mask, black hides, right reveal. Oh, the mouse just hit the floor. Hold on. Ah. Okay, let's see if the mouse is still working. Yep, okay. And we can get this back here. And now if we hit Control I, it'll just affect the 99% that's not blocked. Okay, so the toggle is right here. You can see it in the center. It's very subtle, but it's there. Shift. So I'm blocking the mask and I'm opening the mask. If I went to, I see what the problem is. It's subtle because the opacity is very low. Well, the screen is not big enough for the both of us. I can't get the opacity up.
yeah,
But
yeah.
if I tried doing this, I'm
Yeah,
not
I
getting
keep
very
forgetting
far
what the keyboard
Yeah,
shortcut is to hide all those Zoom tools that are
I got,
blocking
yeah,
your screen.
right, exactly, exactly. It's only a 15,
Gotta-
this is a little laptop with a 15-inch screen. But
Yeah.
if I try this, you can see there's a slight difference in the tonality. It's not a marked big enough difference. Okay, so from the folks who asked the question about flipping it, inverting it, is this helpful? Do you have a follow-up question? If you're clear, fine. If you're not clear, whatever. If you want to email me later or tomorrow, it's info, info@jerryginsberg.com, and I will do my best to send you an email answer.
Yeah.
Okay,
I,
but it's really a very straightforward thing to do.
yep. Yep.
So if
Jerry, do you want another one? Another way to do it?
Sure,
Do a curves adjustment layer,
right,
and
okay,
and at the lower left, raise it all the way up, and at the lower right,
right. You can
on
flip
the
right,
white,
exactly, right,
yeah,
right, right,
bring it all the
right.
way down.
I'm familiar with it. I've never done it. So in the default position, this is black. So we're going to make that white. In the default position, this is white. We're going to make that black. And there you go. Okay. That's absolutely true. You're just flipping the dialogue, the curves dialogue from black and white to white and black. And it's basically the same idea. I find if you want to do it fast and down fast, Control Command I is fine, but this is very nice also, without a doubt. So if I hide this layer, there you go. There's your original image, basically. Let's turn this layer off. There's your original, and there's your inverse. Okay, and anybody who's ever worked in a wet darkroom knows what a black and white negative looks like, and you project it on the easel and you make the print, and like that, this is what you have. Now, it doesn't work every time. It's got to be the right image. Otherwise, it's not going to look right. This is interesting. This could be interesting. Now, by the way, if you do this with color, it's going to invert all the colors. So blue's going to be yellow and green's going to be red and so forth and so on. It's going to look very funky. I've never
Yeah.
seen it work well with color. I can imagine some people have done it with Polaroid or something. I don't know. Not my thing. But this I find is interesting in some cases. Now, you can take this layer mask, any one of the, you can, whether you create a layer mask or you use an adjustment layer with a mask, and you can brush on it and make local adjustments and hide it some places and reveal in others. Up to you.
Yeah, and it could make an interesting sky if you kept the
Right.
foreground not inverted.
Right.
So
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
go bananas with this all day long.
yeah, no,
Okay.
it's a lot of fun. Yeah, we've gotten a couple comments suggesting where it was, and that duplicate Control plus J, and then Control I,
Right.
and
Right.
just remember it's Command when it comes to a Mac.
No, that's what they say, control or command, control/command, depending on whether it's PC or Mac. I started with PCs years ago because that's what I used in corporate America, and I wasn't about to have one system 10 hours a day and the other system the other 10 hours a day. So I bought a PC at that time. They called them IBM cloned is what they called them, with the competitors of PC. PC was invented about 10 minutes from where I live, actually, in T-Rex here in Boca. And you can do this ad nauseum. You can do this to your heart's content. You can do it with flowers and buildings and people. People gets a little funky, but the landscape and so forth, it's limitless. It's endless. And you can make
Yeah.
multiple versions. I make multiple interpretations of the same image. And I call them XYZ, A, B, C, D, E, whatever it is. I put another layer after it as a suffix, and I have a different interpretation of the same image.
Yep.
It's endless. It's endless.
Yeah, that's gotta admit, that's the nice part about digital is it's repeatable and
Right. As
you can
I
do the
said in the
same
beginning,
thing.
as I said in the beginning, if you spend 5 minutes or 5 days on one file until you get it exactly the way you want it, and you're in love with it, you can make a million prints that will be identical. I don't know where you'd put them, but they'd be identical. Okay, now this isn't bad. I'm glad I chose this image. If any of you have not been to Monument Valley, you have my sympathies. It's really a fantastic place to photograph. I've been going there and schmoozing the Navajo for the better part of 30 some years.
Yeah, it looks
Most
like a neat
recently-
place.
Most recently, May of last year, yeah. I had my group there. They traipsed through
great.
the shrubs, 5 a.m., but they did it and they got the shot.
Yep, yep.
But I learned the skill of communicating with the Navajo and getting what I wanted and staying on their good side. Getting those two things done is a skill, believe me.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
No, they're good guys. They just, it's a different mindset. But yeah, you can do this all day long and you can brush on this and you can do different degrees of this. Oh, that's another thing. You can take the opacity slider and you can move this down from 100 and you can change the opacity of the chosen layer that's highlighted. And you can play with that too. If you don't want to go too extreme, you can go to 70, 80, 90%. And you can do that locally or globally. There's no limit.
Yep.
How are we doing on time?
We're fine. It's we're at an hour and a half. But we don't actually have much that we do afterwards. We do a Q&A whenever you're done. Whenever you feel like you've covered everything you'd like to cover.
Well, let me scroll quickly through my notes so I don't make the mistake of leaving out something that's really important. Actually, without looking at these, I pretty much covered this. Okay, so there is one thing that's come about recently that I was in a discussion with the latest monitors. They seem to be so sharp. We used to use to check sharpness and noise and spots. We used to 100%, used to use 100% on the screen. Now most people are talking about using 200% because the spots could elude you at 100%. And check the sharpening at 200% or 150 or whatever. But with the newest, brightest, sharpest monitors, they're saying that 100% is no longer adequate. With infrared, I have a note here, and this is true. I don't think I have an image handy. It can change. Let me see if I can find something good. It can change the foliage or give you an interpretation of the foliage. Let me minimize this. I don't think I have the right thing here. I know where to find it. I want to show you this. Oh, come on.
And while you're doing that, I should say that Gary from Hunt's Photo and Video is the person that suggested Jerry and is helping me find a lot of our speakers. So please visit Hunt's Photo and Video.
Gary's a very good guy, and it's a great company. And Gary will give you a good service. Now,
Yep.
how do I get in this? Oh, come on. I know what I'm looking for. Oh, here it is. Here it is. This is it. Fit in view. Come on, Jerome. This is a shot from on top of Signal Mountain in Grand Teton National Park. And the point of infrared is that very often, not always, but if you have direct light on foliage, like all these trees down here, a lot of limber pines and a lot of aspens, it can turn them whitish. It's a very interesting effect. And it really works well if you've ever been to Yosemite and you come out of the tunnel at tunnel view and you see this whole expanse in front of you, and you have the bottom, the foreground of the frame is almost always the forest, and it turns white, makes a very different, very ethereal image. So you can use that to your advantage. And you can also block it and turn them black and turn them dark to a varying degree with a layer mask.
Yeah, that's always the
And-
interesting part with infrared and what it does to
I love
leaves.
infrared. I love
Yep.
infrared. I could shoot infrared all day long. Somebody asked Clyde Butcher, was a big group in an audience, what's the best time of day, meaning for the light, what's the best time of day to shoot black and white? Because we know we're conditioned to shoot color primarily at the golden hour when the sun is somewhere near the horizon, morning or evening, so we get the softest lights and the longest wavelength and so forth and so on. And Clyde Butcher said, with response to the question of what's the best time of day to shoot black and white, his answer was verbatim, anytime you're breathing.
Yeah.
Meaning, obviously, that the black and white, given the right light, can withstand the contrast of harsh lighting and midday light and so forth if you compose it properly and know what you're doing. But there's no reason to not shoot black and white in the middle of the day if you can find the right shot.
Sure. Yep. Jerry, we've got one person asking, where were the profiles? Can you show
Sure.
again the profile part?
Okay. So
I know
let's say I've
since
just now.
you got something there that you can just show.
Right. So let's say I've just opened this in Camera Raw. I go up here. If I find the cursor, it'd be easier. I go up here. There are three little squares right along the line that says profile. This says monochrome, which is going to say, because this is a black and white infrared image. This was never color. So it's going to be that only. Go in here, click on these three squares, this little icon, one click, and this will come out. Now, it may be, you know what? This may be better if I show you with a color image. That'll give you a more complete idea. So I'm just grabbing this. The first thing I saw. I can't see a thing. This is not. Camera, okay. This is in the Tetons. If there's a color image, if you go up here, tell me that everyone can see my cursor and where I am at this little corner here, under the line that says profile, click on this. Don't immediately go in here. Go down to here where it says, there's a flyout, it says B and W. That's not root beer. That's black and white. And now you have, scroll down, you have these various different profiles, and it'll show you live mousing. And again, it's probably a good idea to have a notepad handy so you don't sit there scratching your head saying, well, gee, what was the one I liked so much? I can't find it. I don't remember what number it was. If you find something that's really neat, write down the number and you can get back to it. This actually is not bad.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I've gone and I've starred a lot of the ones that are my favorites so that I can find them a little easier. There's a
Right.
star in the upper right-hand corner that you can.
And the beauty is you can make a black and white version and a color version of the same image, call them A and B or whatever you want to call them, and you can have multiple different interpretations. You can have color and you can have six different black and white, make six different black and whites out of it and crop it and change the tonality and use different profiles. But the beauty is if you start with a raw image, which this is not, if you start with a raw file, you keep it in raw until the very, 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 very end. If you choose to open it in Photoshop for whatever reason, then it's going to have to be saved as a TIFF or a PSD, or God forbid, a JPEG. I didn't say that. Don't quote me. You're going to save it as a 16-bit RGB or ProPhoto TIFF or PSD. I'm big because I started with Photoshop many years ago, when before the ability existed to save TIFFs with layers. You couldn't save layers TIFFs at one time. So I just saved everything, the master files or PSD. If I had a PSD icon, I knew it was layered. And if I had a TIFF icon, I knew it was flattened and ready for printing. It was very simple. I just had to look at the screen and that was it.
Yeah.
Today, it's not really that strict, but it still helps me do it the same way.
Right.
And if any of you have ever been to this spot, you might recognize it. That's a very distinctive mountain skylight. That's the Grand Tetons. That's the cathedral group in the center. And this is from a spot called Blacktail Pond, which is not one of the iconic viewpoints, but it's something that I found about 33 years ago. It's down off the road.
Yep. I got that almost that same shot. I found that pond with a friend, Ken, when we went out to the Tetons. And yeah, it's a great spot for both color and black and white.
I often make this a second shot in the morning after Mormon Lane with the barns, go down across the road, down a little bit, and you can make this a second shot. It's really nice. I always take a workshop there to the second shot of the morning after Mormon Lane.
Yep. It's a neat spot, that's for sure.
It really is.
And also, if you're using Lightroom, the profiles are in about that same location.
Same spot, same thing, same interface. The shape of the slider may be a little different as you go down the interface, but it's the same thing. Actually, it's an interesting thing, at the risk of sounding like I'm ahead of the curve, I'm not. When Adobe introduces a new feature, they will very often, lately, almost all the time, put it in Camera Raw before Lightroom. Okay?
Yep.
So about 6 other fellows, all male, and I, about a year ago, we started banging on Adobe because the AI-defined masks in Lightroom and Camera Raw, with the sky and the background and the subject and the object and all these jazz, where the delineation line was too sharp, and it was creating transitions that were too abrupt, and we had to soften the transition. So we banged on Adobe Engineering for months and months and months until they finally said, okay, we're hollering uncle, we give up, we heard you, we'll do it. And now there is such a thing in Camera Raw. I don't know if it's out in Lightroom yet, but in here, if you go into, let's just open this up somewhere. I don't care where it is. If I could see the cursor. Oh, Jerry, come on. Okay, here's the cursor. Fine. Favorites. No, I don't want this. I want color. Okay, so here. Oh, geez, come on. Okay. If I go into masking, I now have the ability somewhere in here. I saw it the other day. If I move the mask panel over, which is a problem, shut up. Now, just to make me a liar, I can't find it. So
what are you
here,
looking for?
I'll show you. Come on. I just hit subject. It's not going to know what to do. All right, detecting subject, whatever it's going to do. I'm going to show you. So here we have two new sliders. We have made a mask of the subject, whatever it is, feather and edge. So if we now change this color overlay from green for color to black and white. No, that's not the one I want. Here we go. This is showing the mask because, as we know with Adobe, white hides and black reveals. Now we can see very clearly if we go into feather, we have an abrupt transition with a very sharp line. We can feather this transition and make it as swift as we want. So we can get past an abrupt transition and make it gradual. At the same time, if we play with the edge slider, whoops, I missed it. If we play with the edge slider, we can blur the edge. This either exists today in Lightroom or will be there shortly, one or the other. But being a superior smart aleck using Camera Raw, I can say I got it before Lightroom got it.
Yeah,
So listen,
I can't remember if it's made it to Lightroom. I don't think it has yet.
I don't know.
That,
Easy
that
enough to
was one
find
of the
out.
new features in Camera Raw.
But the beauty is that it gives you the ability to blur the edge and have a more gradual transition. And this is great with trees and leaves and skies and hair and a lot of things with fine detail. And very often, if you go from the sky to a mountain, you don't want an abrupt transition. You want it a little more gradual. And that's what this enables you to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good.
So it's a new feature, it's an improvement, and if you don't have it in Lightroom yet, it's coming soon to a Lightroom near you.
Have you used
Yeah.
the depth range feature?
I have, it's not really ready for prime time. That's my opinion. I've never had it. You mean as a mask?
Yes.
It's never really worked the way I had hoped. I've tried it several times. After about 6 times, I kind of stopped going back to these things until somebody tells me that they're perfected.
I haven't been shooting anything that I could use it yet, so.
I mean, color range is pretty good. Brightness or luminosity range is pretty good, but the depth range I've never found success with, and the consensus is it needs work. Not everything that our friends at Adobe do is perfect on day one.
Yep.
Okay, and I don't use beta stuff because if I'm going to learn it, I don't want to learn it and then they're going to change it and then I have to relearn it. Let me know when it's done, then I'll learn how to use it.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on beta.
Yeah, I've had too many problems when I've gone to beta stuff.
I got along this many years on Earth without it. I'll wait till they get it right. That's my opinion. And that's my story, ladies and gentlemen. Any other questions?
Yeah, we got just Lori thanking you for a great webinar.
You're entirely welcome.
Sydney Friedman added that with the Fuji camera, and it pretty much is with each of the different cameras, their own profiles are also in that box. If you look at the profile box, it will bring in a lot of the camera profiles along
right,
with.
Yes, I've heard about people using Fuji. I'm not a Fuji guy. Yes, I've heard of that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and yeah, we've gotten a bunch of people thanking you for the great webinar so far.
Everybody is entirely welcome. I am very happy to do it. I enjoy it. I'm running out of voice, to be honest with you.
Jerry, do you ever use a polarizer?
Oh, yeah. Come on. What? Oh, I see. Probably helps to click on the right button. I used to use it a lot more often with color, with film rather, excuse me. I always carry a polarizer stuck to me somewhere. And the greatest sin of polarizing is over-polarizing.
Hmm.
So if you remember Dr. Edwin Land, who invented it, and you know how it works, if the sun is behind you or in front of you, and you're at a straight angle with the sun, but the light source, not the sun, the light source, whatever it is, it's going to have no effect, zero. If you're at a 90-degree angle, so the light source, you're looking at the subject and the light source is coming in from 90 degrees, that will give you the maximum effect. And if you're at a 45-degree angle, it'll be half the effect and so forth. The greatest sin with polarizing does three things. First of all, it cuts through haze, it saturates colors, and it increases contrast. So the greatest sin is overpolarizing. So it's very tempting to look through the viewfinder and say, well, gee, if a little is good, a lot is more is better. No, it isn't. The best rule of thumb that I have come up with is if you want to use a polarizer successfully and don't go too far under or over, you can see the real-time effect looking through the viewfinder. Dial it, unless you're in a linear polarizer, dial it to the maximum effect. Here's white foliage, by the way, with infrared. You can dial it to the maximum effect, whatever that is, depending upon the angle of the light source to the subject. Dial it to the maximum effect, and if you're at a 90-degree angle, for example, your best bet is reduce it, back it off by somewhere around 25–30%. Otherwise, you run the risk of, oh my God, how did the sky get black? Oh, that's too sharp. That's too contrasty. It does build up contrast. If you use a polarizer in a contrasty scene, you could very easily overdo the contrast. But yes, it definitely helps, and especially with rainbows are neat. If you dial let's assume for the moment that the light's at a 90-degree angle and you're getting maximum effect. If you dial it to one spot, you will get no rainbow. You'll wipe it out. You'll blot out the rainbow completely, or the reflection actually in water. If you turn it 180 degrees opposite, you'll get the opposite effect. It'll maximize it. And if you let's assume you have the camera set to horizontal and you dial in the correct polarization and you're very happy, it's lovely, it's just what you want. And then you flip the camera to vertical, you got nothing. It's very important that when you go between vertical and horizontal to rotate the polarizer 90 degrees to retain the same degree of polarization. So if you have it on horizontal and you got it perfect and you flip the camera, rotate the polarizer 90 degrees and you'll be back where you started. What the heck is that on the bottom? Oh, that's the other image. They're not all the same size. So yes, you can get yourself into trouble with overpolarizing. I used to go shoot with a fellow named Pat O'Hara, terrific, gentle nature photographer, not healthy. And he would always be afraid of a polarizer because he would say it built up too much contrast. But you got to watch. You got to be careful. You know, it's Mae West said, too much of a good thing is wonderful. Not always. Not always. All things in moderation. Someone else wanted to say something.
Yeah, do we have any other questions? As we start to wrap things up here. I'm not seeing any.
Okay.
Well, Jerry, thank you. It's been a very interesting Saturday morning learning about black and white.
On the contrary, thank you all, and thank you for your attention. I enjoy doing these things. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate the fact that you want to hear what I have to say. And believe me, whatever I say is not the be all end all. It's not cut in granite. There are 9 million opinions, and nobody's right and nobody's wrong. But I'm just sharing with you things that I have picked up along the way, and I'm happy to do it.
It's always fun listening to another photographer's point of view and their ideas and how they do things. And we always pick out and find something worthwhile to add to our knowledge.
I try. Good.
We've
I'm
all
glad you
been
do
doing
it.
this a lot of years.
Yep. Yep. I say, listen, people say I'm traveling. They can't believe I still travel so much. And my answer is I'm working off a bucket list. But the problem is this. The list is getting longer. The bucket is not getting any deeper. So
Yeah,
I'm playing catch up and I'm not catching up. That's my story.
yeah, I can understand that completely. I know the feeling. So
Okay.
no,
Luckily, I'm very glad that my two adult children know everything. They have nothing left to learn, so it makes my life easier. What can I say?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you all very, very much. I'm grateful.
Thank you, Jerry, for coming
Thank you,
on
Jerry.
and passing on your knowledge. And it's been fun reminiscing about the old days and the new days. So
My pleasure. Anybody, any questions, any follow-up, anybody, info@jerryginsberg.com. You may not get an answer in 15 minutes, but you will get an answer.
well, we appreciate it. It's thank you for coming on and doing this today.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy Saturday. Happy weekend.
Yep. Same to you. Same to
Okay.
you.
Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
All right. As we just finish up, I just wanted to let people know that we've got Tim Gray next month in August, going to be talking about Lightroom and Photoshop and improving your composition in photography. Actually, it's more of improving your composition in photography using Lightroom and Photoshop. In September, I have Jeff Engel. He's a local photographer talking about nature photography. He basically, well, he's right now he's on an African safari, but he'll be talking about composition pretty much with owls and birds, and he does a lot with owls and turkeys. And so he's going to be on in September. October, I have Simon Tolzman. He was the guy that we had in April that had to cancel because of personal problems with Life is a Highway on automotive photography. November, I've got Brian Hansel coming on. I'm still working with him on a topic. Then I can't believe I'm already into January of 27. I have Hazel Meredith with a Photoshop potpourri talking about different ways to use Photoshop. February, we've got Mark Batista, composition, shooting with intent. Mainly, he does still life photography. So I'm trying to get us a lot of different type of photography going. March, I have Chris Nicholson in photographing in national parks, and he is basically going to be helping talk about how to plan shooting in national parks. And he's been shooting in national parks for quite a while. In April, I have Mike Marzul, finding composition in nature. He does a lot of stuff with volcanoes and storm photography, and he's got a nice talk on composition in nature. I'm still working on May and June. July, I have Ian Plant talking about visual design techniques. And that's as far as I've got. So I've got a couple months I've got to fill in yet for next year, but we got a great end of this year. And December, we're taking that month off because it's like a day or two after Christmas. And we all have family things to do there. But I've got quite a few good people lined up, and I'll be working on a lot more. Some of them are thanks to Hunt's Photo and Video. If you ever do need camera equipment, Gary at Hunt's is very helpful in purchasing camera equipment. They have as good a prices, and he'll steer you in the right direction if you have questions or problems on that. So if anybody knows of somebody I should go and look for, please send me an email. I'll always try to see. Gary has been very helpful at hunts. He's got a list for me of about 40 or 50 photographers I can tap into. So trying to get a wider variety so that we don't just stay with nature photography, and try to get, besides Photoshop and Lightroom, we've been doing pretty good on getting on one, and Luminar Neo. I'm having a harder time finding people on Luminar these days, but I am working on that as well. And if I don't feel something, I know one of these days we're going to talk about AI some more. That's always a good controversial subject, and there's a lot of great uses for it. I'm using a number of them lately, and they're so helpful on research and preparing for other things. It's not just something to use to create a photo, although I got to admit, for my PR work that I need to do for different groups, AI is creating photos very nicely, almost to the point that it's scary that I would bet that if I entered any of these in a competition, it might do as well or better than my own work. So getting to be a little crazy. So with that, it's 11:59. Wow, I hit that on the nose. So I guess we'll call it a day unless somebody's got something else they'd like to talk about. Otherwise, thanks for coming. Have a good August, and we'll see you next month with Tim Gray. He's pretty good on that kind of stuff. So, all
Thank you,
right,
Jeff.
thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.